Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. She left him because he was poor, without knowing he would become a millionaire. Greenville, a sleepy little town nestled in the heart of Ohio, seemed frozen in time. Its cobblestone streets, lined with red brick houses and modest gardens, exuded the tranquility of a simple life. But this tranquility was also a trap. For many, dreams didn't grow here, they withered, crushed by routine and habit. In this almost motionless setting, Daniel Carter, 28, was an anomaly. Every morning, before the city fully woke up, he could be seen putting on his worn work clothes, faded jeans, a flannel shirt, sturdy boots. He would emerge from his tiny apartment on the top floor of an old building with peeling paint, ready to face the day. Daniel was a roof repairer, a parcel delivery driver, a garage assistant, manual jobs, often thankless and poorly paid, but he performed them with admirable seriousness and tenacity. He had no prestigious degree, no decent car, no house of his own, just an old car that rumbled more than it ran, and bills piling up on his kitchen table. But what no one really saw was the flame burning inside him, brighter than most of Greenville's stifled ambitions. An unwavering determination, a clear dream, to build something great, something that would bring him out of the shadows. Every evening, after his long days of work, Daniel returned to a small garage he rented on the outskirts of town, a cramped and dusty space, but for him, a sanctuary. There, alone, he spent hours assembling, coding, soldering, and testing a revolutionary home automation system, a project that would combine technology and simplicity to make homes smarter and more accessible. His tired hands manipulated the circuit boards with meticulous precision, while his tired eyes scanned the screen of an old laptop. The garage's pale fluorescent lights were nothing to write home about, but for Daniel, this modest place was the cradle of his future. It was also there that he found the strength to continue, despite the doubts, the sleepless nights, the repeated failures. At that time, in this city where everything seemed frozen, Daniel also experienced a budding love with Madison Lane. She was the very opposite of the world he lived in, elegant, refined, the only daughter of a powerful banker. Madison came from a world of galas, travel, and golden promises, but she had been drawn to Daniel during a chance encounter at a university cafe where he came to fix an electrical outlet. What had touched her was his gentle gaze, that glimmer of intelligence and kindness in his eyes. His ideas, his inner world, that ability to dream big despite everything. At first, their relationship seemed like a no-brainer. Intimate, passionate, almost poetic. Madison adored his free spirit, his contagious passion, that energy that defied the prevailing gloom. But over time, social differences and pressures from the outside world began to intrude. Disapproving glances, half-hearted comments, and family expectations weighed heavily. Madison felt she had to choose between love and a more secure future, between this fragile dream and the stability promised by her environment. Daniel fought every day to make this dream come true. And it was in this tension that their story began to falter. Madison Lane came from a world of bright lights, hushed conversations, and golden promises. Since she was a little girl, she had grown up surrounded by gala dinners where long dresses brushed the red carpet, luxury cars that took her to posh neighborhoods, and trips to Europe where every city was a glamorous stopover. In this world, appearances were everything, the names of the guests, the quality of the champagne, every little detail counted. It was a universe where social status determined a person's worth, and where success was measured by pedigree and bank accounts. At first, Madison and Daniel's romance was a pleasant escape, a breath of fresh air amidst the stifling conventions. But gradually, the reality of their social differences intruded on their relationship, creating an invisible but profound divide. The murmurs and disapproving looks from those around Madison became increasingly difficult to bear. "Your boyfriend is nice, but you're not going to spend the rest of your life with a handyman, are you?" a childhood friend said at a chic brunch. "You deserve better, Maddie. Someone with a real future, not a dreamer wallowing in illusions," added a cousin, in a tone that was half compassionate, half suspicious. Every unsolicited piece of advice, every confidentially spoken sentence, came like a sting. Madison tried not to pay attention, but the weight of expectation grew heavier every day. In Greenville, Daniel fought his daily battle. But for Madison, these sacrifices translated into tangible frustrations: the unpaid electric bill, the cancelled appointments because Daniel worked late, the old car that broke down just as she was supposed to be leaving for an important meeting. She bore the weight of the gap between their dream life and their reality. One icy December evening, as snow began to cover the sidewalks, they found themselves in their tiny studio apartment, its thin walls letting in the cold and the sounds of the street. The air was thick with unspoken words, fatigue, and disappointed dreams. Madison broke the silence, her voice trembling. "Daniel. I'm tired. You spend your life chasing a dream that never comes to fruition. I want a real life. Not a garage fantasy, not a promise that's always put off." Daniel, his gaze misty, his eyes red with fatigue and emotion, stared at her intensely. "I understand. But everything I do is so we can have a future together. So you never have to wonder if we'll make it again." She looked away, her throat tight, hesitant. "I met someone. He works with my father. He has a stable job. He understands me." This sentence was a stab in Daniel's heart, who felt his whole world waver. Without a word, Madison packed her suitcase, gathering her things quickly, without looking back. Daniel didn't try to hold her back. He knew that holding back someone who had decided to leave only prolonged the pain. Before she stepped through the door, he whispered, his voice broken but firm. "You'll see. One day, you'll remember what you left behind." She disappeared into the cold night, taking with her not only her belongings, but also a part of the dream they had built together. Loneliness struck Daniel full force. After the departure of Madison, emptiness settled into his daily life, an icy absence that crept into his dreams. The days grew longer, monotonous, punctuated by sleepless nights and awakenings where the weight of the world seemed even heavier. His once robust body weakened, he lost weight, his features became hollow, his eyes became dark and dull. Illness set in, chronic bronchitis, the result of a winter spent in his poorly heated garage, where he spent his nights working in the cold. Poverty also knocked at his door. He could no longer pay his rent and was evicted from his apartment. He then took refuge in his garage, the dusty, cramped space that served as his workshop, but now also as a refuge. On an old, worn bench, among tools and electronic components, he sometimes slept on the floor. Despite this descent into hell, Daniel never gave up. The breakup, painful and violent, became his fuel, a raw force that he channeled into his project. He locked himself away in his own little world, his nose buried in programming manuals, online forums, and video tutorials. He learned to code relentlessly, refining every line of code, constantly improving his prototype. He also devoured books on negotiation, marketing, and the basics of business. He understood that his dream would not only depend on an idea, but on his ability to sell it. Undeterred, he knocked on every door. Investors, incubators, small businesses. Rejections poured in, doors slammed in the face of this tired, dirty young man, but Daniel persisted. During 2 long years, he lived like this, in that garage, with almost no social contact, sacrificing everything to his vision. The only visits were the rare calls from his worried but proud mother, and the rare words exchanged with an old mentor who still believed in him. Then, one day, a modest miracle occurred. A Detroit startup specializing in smart technologies finally noticed his smart home prototype. They saw beyond appearances, into Daniel's past, and offered him his first contract. This was the beginning of a meteoric rise. In 5 years, his company, which he named Carter Tech, became a key reference in residential technology in the United States. Its home automation software was acquired by a large Californian company for the sum of $27 million. With this success, Daniel left Greenville and settled in San Francisco, the beating heart of technological innovation. He chose a sober but elegant house, a reflection of his humility and his intact values. He never forgot where he came from. Proud of his roots, he hired young people from modest backgrounds, often without qualifications, to offer them an opportunity that he himself had had to earn. He invested in school programs in Ohio, funded scholarships to enable others to continue their education, and donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to homes for troubled youth. But, despite his success and generosity, he kept silent about Madison. He never spoke of the woman who had left him, of the woman who had been his original pain. He kept this past locked away deep inside him, like a precious secret, a healed but intact wound that had made him the man he had become. 8 years had passed since those dark days in Greenville. Since Daniel Carter had left his small garage to conquer the world of technology. Tonight, he walked a different red carpet, that of a grand luxury hotel in Chicago, a vibrant and cosmopolitan city. Invited as a keynote speaker at a prestigious philanthropy conference on technological innovation, Daniel was the center of attention. In the immaculate lobby, beneath glittering chandeliers, he signed autographs, answered questions from journalists, and interacted with investors. Yet, despite the spotlight and the hubbub of conversation, he remained humble, smiling simply, and carefully avoiding trying to dominate the stage. The closing gala was in full swing in a vast room adorned with red drapes and white orchids. Elegantly set tables welcomed guests dressed in their finest, from entrepreneurs to philanthropists, all gathered to celebrate successes and raise funds for social causes. Daniel was calmly chatting with a group of investors, discussing future projects and innovations, when, unexpectedly, a young waitress approached discreetly, carrying a silver tray with champagne glasses. She hesitated for a moment, then handed him a glass. Their eyes met. She suddenly turned pale, her fingers trembled imperceptibly. "Daniel." The man looked up, time seemed to slow down. Recognition was immediate, almost painful. "Good evening, Madison," he said calmly, without showing any resentment. She was no longer the elegant, carefree young woman he had known. Thinner, tired, with dark circles under her eyes. Her black and white uniform, adorned with a pin bearing the name of the host agency, betrayed a life very different from the one she had once dreamed of. But Daniel did not judge her. "You're famous now. Everyone's talking about Carter Tech," she whispered, her voice fragile. "And you?" he asked softly. She lowered her head, unable to meet his gaze. "Divorced. 2 children. The right match I had chosen left me 2 years after our marriage." A silence, heavy with regret. "My family went bankrupt. I had to work to pay for my sick mother's care." His words slipped out, filled with painful sincerity. "I made mistakes. I left you for the wrong reasons." A silence fell, broken only by the distant murmur of a piano. Daniel looked at her, without anger or reproach, only with deep understanding. "You left me because I was poor. Today, I'm rich. But you know what? The biggest change isn't money. It's what I've learned to value." He gently placed his glass back on the tray, his eyes shining with a soothing sincerity. "Back then, you didn't believe in me. Not really. And without that pain, maybe I would never have made it this far. So, thank you." A tender, sincere smile lit up his face. Then, without another word, he walked away, melting back into the crowd, leaving Madison alone with her thoughts and regrets. Daniel relentlessly continued to build his empire. Despite the growing fortune and recognition that accompanied it, he remained unusually humble. He never forgot where he came from, nor the obstacles he had overcome. True to his values, he made it a point of honor to give back to his community, scholarships for young talent, training for those excluded from the system, and personal investment in social projects. In this ascent, he also found love, a different kind of love, deep and sincere. A woman who, long before his bank account swelled, had believed in him. A companion who shared his vision, his commitment, and his humility. Together, they built a warm home, built on trust and respect, far from the judgments of the past. As for Madison, life had reserved a more tumultuous path for her. Remaining at Chicago, she tried to rebuild her life. Courageously, she resumed her studies online, seeking to reinvent herself. She juggled her responsibilities as a single mother, a modest job, and the dreams she had put aside. Every now and then, she saw Daniel on television, in interviews, inspirational speeches, or reports on his philanthropic work. Each time, a lump formed in her throat. She understood then, with a dull pain and a cruel lucidity, that the man she had let go had never been poor in the deep sense. No, he had been just under construction, a man building his future, a future she had not known or wanted to wait for. In the silence of her regret, Madison learned that some opportunities, once gone, never return.